Hi and welcome to the latest episode of Dynamic Duos, a Bradley Omani podcast. And who better to join me than Catriona Lingwood, Chief Executive of Constructing Excellence North East, and Angela Carney, Managing Director of Carney Consultancy and newly appointed President of Northern Counties Builders Federation. So first of all, Angela and Kat, do you want to just tell me a little bit about how long you've been working in the construction sector for?
I've been working with the construction industry since 2001, having a previous career. I started originally looking after the Construction Best Practice Club, which was part of the Construction Best Practice programme. I was invited by the DTI in 2001 to a meeting where they wanted to look at dissemination of best practice in the industry and working more closely with an organisation called Rethinking Construction, and set up Constructing Excellence in the North East in 2003.
Brilliant. And Angela, what about yourself? What's your history?
I joined the industry by accident in 1990, so 34 years ago, as a trainee civil engineer, and then qualified with a degree in that eventually, and then went on to be a site manager. And then for the last 22 years, I've run a health and safety consultancy specifically for the construction industry.
So hopefully people do know, but can you tell us a little bit about Northern Counties Builders Federation and your role within that?
It's a group of local contractors and principal contractors, and that's what it's set up by originally and still is today. And it's there to try and address the issues for local builders. And through that, we now have CENE, which is funded by the NCBF, which is a mixture of other organisations like the NFB, CECA, FMB. And they are used to try and lobby for the issues for the members of NCBF.
And just in case people don't know, so CENE stands for Construction Alliance North East. It's a lot of short names, isn't there, in this industry?
Yeah. There is, yeah.
Northern Counties Builders Federation, Constructing Excellence in the North East, they sound similar, but they are different. Mm-hmm. So do you want to just tell us how they do differ?
Well, obviously, the Northern Counties Builders Federation is for contractors. We support all areas of the construction industry, not just contracting, but very much so that they're a very, very important part of our industry. The construction industry is made up of, I think, 94% SMEs. And obviously, that's where the relationship is. We need to work with them to make sure that we are supporting their members and to hopefully give them some insight into things that are going on and to obviously help them improve in what they do as well. And it's great to see some of their members who engage with us and have obviously won awards with us in the past.
And can you just give us a little feel for the current climate within the construction sector at the moment?
I would describe it as not technical, but booming. It is absolutely booming, and the work pipeline that I just know of, and there'll be much more than what I know of, is huge for the North East. But the biggest challenge anybody has that I speak to, it is skills. Everybody I speak to, it's a skills shortage, and especially in the contractors world. So that's where NCBF are really trying to work hard with regards to the trades that are needed, because we can draw all the pictures we want, we can design all the buildings, and we can work out all the costs. But if we haven't got those trades, we are not building anything, and it's getting worse, not better. Certain college I've heard of this week hasn't filled or it's significantly lower in the numbers for their bricklaying apprenticeships. So it is getting worse, and it's those contractors that are going to employ these apprentices, because a lot of the tier one contractors, they subcontract everything out, so they don't particularly employ large numbers of the apprentices, like your joiners, your bricklayers, your plasterers, electricians, plumbers. So the contractors are really vital to the construction industry.
So how is the NCBF and also Constructing Excellence in the North East trying to address this issue?
So NCBF and CENE are working together through the people group, and we're trying to do a few different things. We're trying to improve the image of the industry, because that is what's not helping to attract people into the industry, because it still has a pretty poor reputation. It does. And so that's the main thing that we're working on, but also we're trying to work in training and retaining people.
I think it's really important, especially women in the industry. Unfortunately, we tend to lose a lot of women out of the industry after a few years, and it's we're trying to make sure that they, if they leave to have a family, they come back, or that we actually retain them in the first place. So that is a big thing for us at the moment, to sort of like see. We need to encourage more people into the industry, but the retention in the industry is absolutely paramount as well.
So what do you think is causing people to drop out then? What do you think it is?
In terms of people generally, or women?
Women, yeah.
I think a lot of women, when they have children, it then becomes really difficult for the working hours. And I mean, it depends what you do. I think if you're based in an office, this is just my opinion. So if you're an architect, or so you're based mainly in the office, it's probably easier to manage a little bit. But even then, the hours that you have to work and be at work are very difficult. Childcare has gone through the roof. Not all the wages then make it worthwhile coming back. But if you're on site, for instance, that's just a no-go for women to. I mean, if you're on a site, if you live in Newcastle, and you're on a site as an engineer down in Darlington, and you've got to be there at 8 o'clock in the morning, what childcare really is open to be able to drop a child off at like 7, if not earlier, to then get down for 8? So it's things like that which don't help. Unfortunately, it's inherent with the industry, because we are a transient industry, but it's about how do we find ways to try and make that better, so that the work is still attainable for them afterwards.
I think it's also looking at other industries and how they do things. It's really important. I mean, flexible working is great, but working on site is probably one of the hardest thing to do, is the flexible working hours. But it can be done. We do have some people who've managed to do that. It tends to be the larger organisations and not the smaller contracting organisations. But there are ways around it, and I think it's trying to make sure that people look at things differently. I think COVID has had a huge effect on the industry, and I think people realise now that, you can do things in a different manner. So, you don't have to go necessarily to a site meeting. You can do things on Teams. So it's trying to make sure that our working practices are done, or continue to sort of like have this new way of looking at things, and a new way of working as well.
The Teams thing is massive. I've seen a lot more of that. But also, it's not just about that. It's also about the environmental fact. If you've got a site down in Lincoln and you don't have to travel there, you can do it on Teams. That's a massive impact, as in better for the environment as well. I think inherently we used to just travel everywhere because that's what we did. And that the thing is, with COVID, it has made us really rethink. So that is a positive, Yeah.
I think also, I mean, as Ange says, it's to do with the sort of your carbon. And all companies now are starting to measure their carbon. They understand, obviously, the impact on the sort of the environment. And they're going to have to do that if they want to sort of continue to work in the industry. They've got to then have a carbon reduction plan. So things like that are sort of coming to the fore. And I think people are understanding that there are different ways of doing things. So as an organisation, that's what we try and sort of advocate, that, looking at doing things in a different manner. So, our theme groups that are part of sort of our organisation, looking at the different things. So, yeah.
Sorry. The other thing is part-time working and flexible working. That could be broadened out much more. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can't flexible work as an electrician in the industry. That's really difficult. You can only install if you're actually on site. But there are other aspects that can be done more flexibly and part-time. You can do part-time working. And that's important as people get older as well. So I've got several women that work in our place that part-time work. In fact, there's only 2 of us at full-time work. The other 4 part-time work. But I've got one of the guys in my place. He's got older. He's gone down to part-time working as well. And I just think across the board, it needs to be considered not just for women, but for lots of different aspects.
Yeah. Kat, just going back a step, you mentioned I think, was it the people group?
Yes.
Could you just tell us a little bit about the 4 theme groups? Because I know that, Angela, you're also a member of the people group as well.
Well, we're going back to sort of 2019 when we were sort of the deliverers of the North East England construction strategy, which became a voice for the industry. And we sort of renamed our campaign as One Voice, because obviously collectively we have allowed a sort of like a voice out there, should we say. From those, there was a number of key areas that we needed to look at. Obviously, people is our biggest asset. We need to make sure that we attract, we retain, and we have a competent workforce. And obviously, there are a number of programmes we're running through those. I'll let Ange, as being vice chair of the theme group, talk about those. But we have other groups as well. So the other areas they're looking at, obviously, the climate action. I mean, we've gone through a climate crisis. We've got to address that. Everybody has got to look at how they're sort of living. Their carbon is very, very important, and the reduction is paramount. To save. I mean, I hate to say this, to save the world, but it is important, and I think we all acknowledge that now. But we've got to do something about it. We can't just seem to be, we know, but we've got to actually take things forward. So we've got a very active climate action group. It's now led by Dr. Ollie Jones, who is one of the head of sustainability at Cundall.
Yeah.
And we have a very sort of like active group from all parts of the industry feeding into that. We have another part of the industry was looking at innovation, trying to make sure that we bring to the fore things that people can use, or ways they can do things differently. So it could be a product, it can be a process. Just trying to make people more aware of what's actually going on with regard to that. We have our Smart Construction event coming up in October, and I think that's obviously going to be a great event for people to see all kinds of parts of the industry, including digital, sustainability, and modern construction processes as well. And then we've got our value group, and obviously this is not cost. It's nothing to do with cost. It's value over cost. It's to make sure that our clients are getting the best possible value out of what they're actually wanting at the end of the day. They need a building that's built for purpose. They need a building that's fit for purpose, and making sure that obviously that everybody understands that it's not just cheapest price is going to be the best, because you don't always get what you need, and they've got to understand what they need. So our value group work very closely with clients in some of the stuff that they do.
And you obviously work very close together. Can you tell us about some initiatives that you're involved in? I know obviously there's the North East Schools Wonder Challenge, and that's going to be relaunched again very soon. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
And it's your baby.
It's not mine. I didn't invent it. Somebody else did. I don't think we've ever got to the bottom of who really did. But the last time it was run was 2016, and I think I was involved in the judging right on the last day. And I just remembered, I think it was during COVID, it was a really good scheme. So last year we brought it back and reinvigorated it. And it was aimed at year 9 and 10 students. Yeah. And initially we had 10 schools sign up and get involved. And we had more that wanted to get involved as well, actually. And it was about designing a sustainable transport system for their local area, for wherever they were. And they had to there was 3 stages. So they had to do some research into the industry, different sustainable transport systems around the world and in this country. Then they had to sort of work out a difference between greenfield, brownfield sites. Yeah. Then establish their own design, do some costing, some social value. And finally, they had to do a presentation and build a model. So it ticked lots of the Gatsby benchmarks, right. Which is why the schools sort of bought into it as well. And in the end, I think we had 6 teams that finished. And then we had a presentation day at the university, and it was great. It was really good to see what year 9 and 10 students can actually produce, and how enthusiastic they are, and what novel ideas that they come up with. And the team that won could have literally picked up their design and hand it straight to Sunderland City Council to solve a problem. And I did tag Sunderland City Council in the post in LinkedIn, but we never heard from them. Oh, yeah. But it was a team of 3 girls that won. And
4.
No, there was it?
4 girls.
Was
yeah.
it 4?
Yeah, 4
I thought,
girls.
oh, right.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
there was
yeah,
4
yeah.
that won. But
St Anthony's Girls School.
Yeah.
yeah, but
yeah.
the thing is, there was 10 members in most of the other teams, but there was only 4 of them, and they won. It was brilliant.
And you got a lot of construction companies, a lot of your members involved, didn't you?
Yeah, I think obviously they love to get involved with the schools and explain what they do as a job and things like that, and help them to do the project. But the schools are incredibly good at sort of like the pupils at researching. And to be fair, we learn a lot from the schools because they'll come up with some ideas that we possibly haven't thought of. So they're looking at obviously things from elsewhere in the world, and making sure that they obviously bring it to the project that they're actually doing. So it's all great stuff. Honestly, it really is. It's like heartwarming to see that the enthusiasm that they have for it.
I mean, there's so much stuff, so many initiatives going on between both organisations, and I know that Northern Counties Builders Federation were about to launch their Building Your Future campaign as well.
Yeah.
So do you want to just talk around that?
Again, it's about trying to get more people into the industry. So it's all about connecting the students who are on the full-time learners trade type courses, or the T-levels, but all the construction courses, to when they're coming towards the end of their sort of 2-year course, trying to match them up with employers from the local area. Because at the present moment, trying to get an apprenticeship seems to be really complicated for the young people.
Yeah.
The companies don't understand it either, or how to get their grants or anything else. So at the moment, they're just not bothering. So actually, when we can get the companies into the colleges to meet the students, and we did it at Sunderland recently and had the CITB there, so we could explain the grants and how it worked and take away the burden of the paperwork. You've got more chance of them employing these young people to get them into the industry.
And can you both describe your style of leadership and how you work together with your board members? How would you describe it, Kat?
I think we are quite diverse as a board. I think things have changed over the 20-odd years that I've been part of Constructing Excellence. I think that we now have a chair as a female, which Nick Turner from Executive Director at Believe Housing. And prior to her, we had Carol Cairns, who was at Northumbrian Water. So we've had a more women on the board. I think it makes it a better board. I think they're very, very productive. I think all of our board members have a job to do. And I've got to say they are absolutely brilliant. And we couldn't do as much as an organisation if we didn't have the support from the board that we've got at the moment. So I'm very, very grateful to all of them.
And Angela, are you the second lady as president of Northern Counties Builders?
I am, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what kind of history? How many years, do you know? Or
over 100 years.
Wow.
Yeah, definitely. Well over 100 years, yeah. The last lady was in the 1980s.
Oh, wow.
I've never actually managed to meet her yet. I'm still hoping to meet her.
Is she in the northeast?
Yeah, she's in the northeast, yeah.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So I don't think they knew what hit them when I joined.
Well, you've certainly sped up the meetings.
Yeah, I am a bit of a whirlwind.
And as far as EDI, what more needs to be done?
Oh, I think there's an awful lot needs to be done, really. I think one of the things that we've tried to do over the last few years is look at inclusion. And we have had our all-in conference, which is our inclusion conference, which takes place in March. And we try and cover different areas because, it's not just women, it's not just a gender issue, it's not just the LGBT plus, it's things like disabilities and neurodiversity and all sorts of things that we need to look at, because there is a place for everybody in our industry, and I think it's getting much better. I think organisations are doing a lot more, and I think it's one of the things that we need to continue to do. I think not just our industry, I think all industries need to concentrate more on looking at their own EDI and how they're actually delivering things as organisations. We hear some fantastic examples of what's going on out there. And what we try and do is highlight those to make sure people are aware what's going on, what you can do. It's the art of the impossible, isn't it? At the end of the day, just make it possible.
Where will North East construction be in 30 years' time? How will it have changed?
How old will we be? Well, 82.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the thing is though, I mean, when I started in the industry, I had a previous career, obviously because I am quite old, but I would go to a meeting and there would be hardly any women at the meeting. And now it is not like that anymore. But we need to make sure that we encourage people into the industry. And I don't just mean women. You've got the ethnic minorities that they're not encouraged to come into our industry for various reasons. Usually to do with parental influence, I would say, yeah. So we need to get everybody, and I think obviously when you look at neurodiversity now and how certain jobs really fit certain characteristics, and I think that we've got to open our mind to sort of like including more people, and I think encourage it at the end of the day. So I would like to think that, in 20 years' time, we've got a lot further than we have now. I would like to think that it's going to be an industry which is going to be very innovative. It's going to be more sustainable. It's got to be sustainable. And I think that obviously with regard to skills, we have huge skills shortages at the moment. So that means we've got to look at doing things differently, because obviously encouraging more people into the industry is great, but we also need to make sure that we're covering different aspects so that things can change. And we're obviously an organisation for change.
I think there'll be a lot more digital, and I think that'll get younger people in as well, because I think they are so up for all the digital. So I think that there'll be much more of that. You can see that in all aspects that I'm saying now. There's much simpler ways of doing things with much better software. And I think they'll be more automated as well. I think there'll be more off-site production, which will create a better working environment, because we won't necessarily be building things in like today in a rainy, cold environment. We'll be able to do it in a factory. But I think that off-site construction has got to get much better, and there's got to be much more investment in that, because that's what we need as an industry, because I think that can help the pipeline of work, which is how we'll get more apprentices and more people coming through as well on the trades.
Yeah. And robotics as well. I think obviously that's huge at the moment. I mean,
they'll be replaced by a robot car.
Well, you never know.
You'll always need people.
Yeah.
And I think some people are frightened of the AI because they think it's going to replace them, but we are still going to need people.
So it's a big year ahead for both organisations. Obviously, we've got the campaign, Building Your Future campaign, CAP moving across to the National Awards in November for Constructing Excellence in the North East.
We're near the end of our judging process for that. Obviously, I don't judge. So we're looking forward to the National Awards in November. I think the North East has got a very strong year this year, so I'm keeping fingers crossed that we come away with a number of awards this year.
It'll be the regional Constructing Excellence North East Awards soon, and G4C Generation for Change Awards.
I think that's probably one of my favourite things of the whole year. We are very, very lucky in our region to have such good talent, and we get amazing submissions through for people, and it's heartwarming to see some of these submissions and what people do. I hate to say this, as a young person, I didn't do anywhere near the kind of things that they do nowadays. They're they're working with the schools, they're giving back to their local communities, as well as doing incredibly well in their own careers by the sort of the educational attainment they're getting, and what they're actually achieving. So it's wonderful to see, and I think that obviously the North East has done really, really well over the years with regard to the people that we're bringing through in the industry, and we just need to keep going, you know.
And outside of work, away from the construction sector, built environment, what do you like to do?
Hey, well, we're going on a trip soon.
Yeah, so where are you going?
Yes, we're going to France.
Oh, lovely.
Because we thought we needed to have a little tour of France, so we're going to the Champagne region.
Oh, very nice.
And a little tour of Paris whilst we're there, because why wouldn't you?
Oh, nice,
Yes.
excellent.
Yes, so we're looking forward to that.
And are you back running at all, Kat? 'Cause I know that you had hip problems.
Yeah, I had a hip replacement earlier on in the year, so that's gone really well. But during COVID, I did have a very nasty fall, and I've ruptured a number of ligaments in my ankle, and I broke a bone. So I'm waiting for an ankle operation. So after that, when I'm a bionic woman, hopefully I'll be able to get back running.
Because I know that you go to a lot of the park runs still, don't you?
Yes, I am a member of the core team at Harrington Country Park Run. Yeah. However, this week I'm at Riverside Park Run. So there you go. I'm on a away trip, yes.
And what about you, Angela? Because I know that you like, is it paddleboarding?
Paddleboarding, yeah. Do a lot of paddleboarding, yeah.
Are you doing the Great North Run this year?
No, I've done it twice, Sarah.
That's enough.
What about you? Are you doing it?
No, not this year. I've actually had a bit of an Achilles problem. So I'm down to shorter runs, although I might be at one of your park runs soon, I'm hoping. So
I am supposed to be doing the Copenhagen one next year.
Was that a half marathon?
Yeah, it's a half marathon.
Right. Oh, very good. How did you find out about that?
Somebody else told us. It's on the flat, that's why.
And it's a good holiday as well. Oh,
It's on
excellent.
the flat.
Any marathons? Cat, probably not at the minute.
Not at the minute, no.
What about you? No. Well, I think that concludes the latest episode of Bradley O'Mahony's Dynamic Duos. So thanks very much, Kat and Angela. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.